Welcome back to another edition of Imagine Better. I am your host, Mark Powers, and today in the Imagine Better studio, I am honored and grateful to have the lovely Dr. Darla Bishop joining me, all the way from Lansing, I think, I heard.
Today. So I'm originally from Detroit.
Okay.
But I'm a military spouse, so I live where the Army tells us to live.
You know, I forgot about that, because when we first started chatting, you mentioned that, and I actually think because of that schedule, then I overdid something and I had to reschedule you.
Yeah, but it worked out perfectly.
Perfect.
It worked out perfectly.
Because you're here. Here we
Yes.
are. Nice to, I'm just meeting her for the first time. Now, do you want me to address you as Dr. Bishop or as Darla? How do you want me to?
No, I'm Darla. So
Okay.
I usually only make people call me doctor if I feel like they've, assaulted me in some way.
Okay, well, that's not my plan to insult her, you guys.
It's doctor, actually.
That's right, doctor. That's right.
When I'm triggered.
Oh, I love it. Uh-oh, I don't want to experience that side of Darla.
I was on a podcast recently, and the guest, not meaning to, I'm sure, said something that really kind of got me going.
Yeah.
And I said, well, actually, I'm a professor. And I was like, oh, and I noticed because I kind of went there, I was like, oh, I must be triggered right now. Oh. So I kind of slowed my pace down. As I watched the episode, I slowed my pace down and said, this is something that I don't like to talk about in this way because. And so we ended up having a really lovely moment.
Okay.
But I saw and felt myself triggered. I was like, uh-oh.
I'm going to sit here really calm and ask him questions. But I'm super excited. So Darla brought her book, How to Afford Everything, and I got a cool copy signed behind camera here. So I know this is your workbook here. But before we dive into the book, I want to know, tell me. I want to know behind the why. Who's Darla? When what got you to this point? So walk all of us through the journey of Miss Darla.
Yeah, part of it is when I grew up in Detroit, we went through all types of things.
Okay.
Not so great things, some bad things. And I remember having this consciousness pretty early on, maybe around 12, right? Where I was like, our life would just be easier if we had more money. And it's not that
that's right for everybody, huh?
Right?
I want some more.
There's that old saying that money can't buy happiness, but you know what it can buy? It can buy ease. Yeah. And so maybe I won't be happy, but my life will be easier, and that might make it easier to be happy, right?
I tell people all the time, they say, hey, you might not buy the happiness, but look at this smile. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And then, and I also recognized that the adults around me were actually really incredibly resourceful for the things they were able to do despite not having. And when I went to college, I went to U of M. I had I had a classmate who drove his Range Rover to class.
Oh, wow.
And he got special permission. His parents somehow worked out with the university, even though there was no such thing as a student parking pass. They somehow worked out to get him a parking pass so that his very fancy luxury vehicle could be parked on campus near our dorm. And I remember having this moment of, okay, we're in the same place.
Right.
His parents had a situation that made it probably really easy for him to get here. He probably went to some of the best schools. He had great extracurriculars. They were having no problems paying his tuition.
Right.
I made it here off of a prayer and a scholarship. But I am here with him. So the only difference between me and him is the money part. And there are 7 libraries on this campus. If I start reading about money, if I start learning about money, I'll be further along than him anyway, because we're here together. Yeah. And I probably had to overcome a whole lot more to get here.
Yeah.
And so fine, he can start rich, and I will meet him there soon.
I love that outlook. That's a great way to look at it. It's like when people surround themselves with, growth-minded individuals, they eventually, if they do things right, they will get there. If you're just like in a competitive spot and somebody is already ahead of you, not to their own doing, well, maybe this individual was all of that, but he was privileged. So is that his fault? No, maybe.
No.
I don't know, not really. But either way, it motivated you, didn't it?
It did, because I was like,
He
okay.
said, I could do this.
Right,
I don't have that, but I can do
that
this.
yet, right? Or my parents couldn't do that for me.
Right.
But maybe once I have my own family, I have enough time to figure out how to do that for my kid in 30 or 40 years. And so it was really motivating. And I mean, it did help. To his credit and to his parents' credit, he was a lovely person. One of the nicest people. And as someone who was poor, meeting someone who was rich, I didn't know that rich people could be nice. So it was really helpful that he was just a very kind person.
So through college, you two have maintained a friendship.
Yeah, he went off to medical school. He's living in Florida now, but he's doing great. Yeah, he's doing really great. And so throughout college, I read books. I took, they would sometimes offer workshops or things through the U of M credit union for a financial thing, so I could learn about it. I had a scholarship, and so I also spent a lot of time in the financial aid office to make sure I understood that I was using my scholarship in all the right ways.
Okay.
And so by the time I got to graduate school, I had saved up enough money that if I wanted to take a job anywhere in the world, because that was what it was for me, I wanted the choices. I didn't want to have spent all this time studying and then have only the choice of moving back home, or only the choice of staying in whatever city or town I was already living in. Because it takes money to move. You've got to get a truck. You've got to have first month rent. You might have a little break between the time you graduate and the time you actually start your real job.
Right.
And I didn't want not having money to keep me from going somewhere super cool to work, to do a job that I would really love or that would pay me well, because no one in the family could help me move, right? So I was like, no, it's fine. I know how to save money. I've been reading all these books. So I'll work extra. I'll put the money away so that when I graduate, I'll have money in the bank, so that if a great job in Washington, D.C. or San Francisco, California comes calling, I'll say, give me a week, I'll be there.
Very nice. Now, did you find that that learning process and reading and understanding finances obviously is what led you to write about it, and this is kind of like your whole world. I mean, it's right.
Part of it. I still have a day job that is not at all related to money.
Okay.
Because that's what's funding.
Well, you make money.
I make money. That's true. So that's what's funding all of the activity around the
Beautiful.
book.
I love that.
And I love that, right? And I think what happened is along the way, I was getting pretty good at having money. And so my friends who were also college students, and we were all broke in some ways and not broke in others.
Right.
They'd be like, you seem to always have money. How? Can you show me? Or when we were all starting to start our careers, they'd be like, you seem to understand what I do to sign up for my retirement and for my health benefits. Like, can you help me fill out the paperwork?
Okay.
And then someone say, hey, I'm actually making good money now, but I don't think I'm doing it right. Do you mind helping me make the budget? And I would say, yes, but you have to be okay with me getting your business. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about things that feel like money related and things that maybe don't feel so money related. Like some of the questions I would ask is like, so what's your first memory of money? What's something your parents used to tell you growing up that stuck with you? What was your first job? What's the first way you earned money? Have you ever started a business? And yes, lemonade stands count. Because part of me asking those questions, when I didn't ask them and I made someone a budget, I realized they weren't able to stick to it because I didn't know those things about them. I didn't know how they felt about money. I didn't know how they thought about money. I didn't know that if money was a person, how they would describe it. Is it a friend? Is it an enemy? Is it a friend?
I like that approach.
And so once I started asking those types of questions, when we'd actually build a budget, people could stick to them, and they were happy to stick to them. And within 3 months, some debt was paid off. Within 6 months, they'd have money saved. Within a year, completely different financial situation. And then on top of that, like a real hope, because they just spent the last year doing something they had been wanting to do, but not sure they could do or had done before and failed at. But now, because we asked all those questions up front about what they think and feel about money, when we actually made a plan, it was one that they could follow so easily.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. I don't think I've ever seen anyone or heard of anyone doing it that way. And then asking those tough questions. then the way that you view money or see money, like you look at it as a friend, or now that to me, that personalizes it and says you don't want to piss off your friend. Mm-hmm. You want to keep good. This is the circle you want to keep.
Yeah, this can be your best friend.
Exactly.
If you treat it right, this can be the friend that saves you from a bad situation. This can be the friend that introduces you to your new favorite restaurant.
Right.
This could be your friend that helps you do something for your mom that you've always wanted to do.
Wow. See, I've never looked at money that way before. Guys, she's on to something here. 6 months from now, check in with me and see where I'm at after I'm done with this. So it's like, I wish they taught this mindset in school, and I'm sure there are some schools that are doing this now, but, and even in our public school system, we're still so far from this, it seems like.
It's getting better.
I heard this recently where it is long overdue. We have so many people in this world that don't understand finances.
Yeah, even though we touch money every day.
Yeah.
We don't really know, and it's because money isn't math, right? If money was math, third graders could do it because it's pluses, minus, a little bit of subtraction, a little bit of multiplication, a little bit of division, right? But it's because it's tied to all these other things too. Our past experiences, how we want to live our life, how we currently live our life, and most parents do the absolute best they can, right? Because that's what they try. But we kind of learn about money the same way we learn about sex, where your parents kind of tell you one or two things to avoid.
Yep.
Like, don't get a credit card, don't get pregnant, right? And then they kind of leave the rest for you to figure out.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of train wrecks there.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of things in so many different ways about how you can use money as a tool. That money is a tool. And so not having guidance, it's easy to make mistakes, which isn't all bad, because if you make them early when you have a little bit of money, then you know not to make them when you have more.
Oh, right.
And what really pushed me to write the book is, as I was reading books, I read, I think the last I counted, 135 I'm up to books about money and career, is so many of them had this tone of, you are bad at money and you are poor because you deserve to be poor. So, get your stuff together.
Okay.
Like, stop making bad choices, stop wasting money, and it'll be better. And I remember as I would read some of these books, I'd almost put it down because I'd be like, that's not my story. Like the mostly women, my mom, my aunts, and my uncles, they were actually really very good stewards of the money they had and made a lot of hard choices all the time. So if I looked at the menu of choices available to them, they were really good at picking the least bad, but there were no true good options.
Yeah.
And so to tell someone like that, who's actually been doing really good given their circumstances, like that you're bad at money because you made bad choices or you don't have self-control, I would be like, that is not my story. I don't know anyone in my life who has bad self-control, who has bad impulse control. These people are constantly on top of it.
Good.
And still can't make the ends meet. Yeah. So when they're in the process of picking up your book or listening to your podcast or watching your show, and you're telling them to feel bad about choices they've made when they really did the best they could, how dare you? That's kind of how I felt. So I wrote this book very much in, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I know this stuff isn't easy, and stick with me through a couple of hard parts, because the payoff will be worth it.
I can't wait to dive in. So this has been out for how long?
Almost a year. It released in December 2023.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Isn't it exciting, though, when you put in that work, you think it all through, you vet it through a small group of friends and family maybe, and you go, okay, do I go for it? Yes. Let's publish it. Now, is it self-published or is it?
Yes, self-published.
Okay, that's what I chose on my route.
Yeah. I had a great editing team, and I'm so thankful for them because I had been thinking about this book for more than a decade.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I actually sat down and was ready, I thought I was ready to write it and thought I had enough time to do the project. It was all tangled up in my brain. because I had kind of 3 ideas, and I was like, but you can't put all 3 of those in the same book. People won't be able to read it.
Right.
And the book will be this thick, and they'll never pick it up. Especially for a topic as hard as money, right? It has to be something that feels like, okay, that book's not too hard. Yeah. Flip through a couple pages. Oh, this is easy to read.
Yeah.
And so I found an editor that helped me kind of untangle and say, well, the first stories we need to tell are these.
Right.
And so I'm really proud of what we ended up with. I have 2 other ideas in my brain, but we're going to keep this one rolling for a bit.
Hey, it's book 2, book 3.
Yeah.
And more.
Maybe.
That's exciting. I mean, I love when I'm in that creative mindset and I have all these ideas, because I journal a lot, and I'm that dork that sits on my phone and I use voice.
I love voice
I will
notes.
just capture ideas.
Yes.
And then I go back through and vet through those ideas, and those are now becoming my second book. So, and it's going to be self-entitled Imagine Better. So I'm excited for that. Who knows when it's going to be released? I mean, I'm just getting started in the last month or 2 here, So yeah, when I feel like it's ready, it'll be ready. It might be next year, it might be 2 years from now. Who cares? You have the next couple, 3 ideas out, in your mind. Same thing. We'll let it go. So you've been down this journey. You go through college. You start to really embrace this mindset around finance. That's awesome, because I think I've never had anyone teach me that. I'm kind of like that, like you said, that self-talk kind of thing.
Yeah.
And boy, have I made mistakes. And I'm talking stupid mistakes. Like, okay, go out there and you just spend, and you go, it wasn't worth it, Yeah. So then I started going in my one part of my life. I'm just like, well, my checking account's like my piggy bank. I'm just going to keep that thing full. Doesn't matter where it goes outside of that. Now, that was stupid, right? Because again, that's not being mindful. Yeah. So then I started getting, the older I get, the more mature and wiser I become. And I'm like, all right, now I sort of kind of get it. I'm still a little guilty of
we're all
overspending. I like spending money, but I do like seeing money in my bank account. That's one thing, It's, I don't know, but I'm getting there. I'm kind of one of those late bloomers, you guys, but
it's never too late.
Yeah, well, now I've been looking forward to meeting you, and you can smack me upside the head and knock some sense into me.
And what's funny is I actually won't smack you upside your head.
I was hoping you'd smack me.
Sorry, you got to find somebody else for that. Now, if you call me with a problem and you want to cry about it, I'm going to say, I'm not the friend. Call your other friend to cry. But when you're ready to make solutions.
That's what therapists are for.
Yeah, when you're ready to make solutions, I'm here. We're going to problem solve this thing. Because part of the mountain that people have to climb when they're first figuring out, if they're starting out or starting over, because you can start over as many times as you need to. If you're starting over, it's sometimes like that, but I've made so many mistakes before.
Okay.
Like that judgment, you're judging yourself. I should have. Yeah. I shouldn't have. Like, stop shoulding on yourself. It doesn't even sound fun.
Right.
And instead, approach this with curiosity. Like, okay, the decisions I made in the past, why did I make those decisions?
Right.
What was behind it? What was I thinking? What was happening in my life at the time? And if you actually look at it with curiosity, you might figure out, oh, I made that choice that I now know is not that great, but at the time that actually was the best choice I had. Or there were other things going on that I needed a solution quick. And that was the quickest solution, because that was most important, is having a solution fast, even if it cost more money, even if it put me in debt, because the thing had to be solved that day, that week, that month.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it, you're like, okay, so how do I keep myself out of that type of situation? How do I get myself out of that type of environment so that I'm not pushed to make a decision that I now know is not a great decision?
And it seems like it would also correlate to, better control money, more money, good credit. It would definitely correlate to that, right?
All of it.
So you're really learning how to be financially optimal in life.
That's right. And one of the things that I say all the time, because there's really only 2 ways to solve your financial situation.
Right.
It's either reduce your expenses or increase your income.
Right.
Those are really, there's no secret. Like, in case you're looking for the secret, that's the secret. You got 2 ways.
There's no magic button I can just press?
Yeah, if the magic button reduces your expenses or increases your income.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. And my preference is always to increase my income because my expenses are pretty well calibrated at this point, and I like the things that I like. I know that I have 2 small kids, and I know that our life goes way smoother when I can order pizza on Fridays and breakfast on Sunday. So that is in our budget, because the week that we didn't order pizza on Friday and breakfast on Sunday, it means that I had to get up early and cook breakfast instead of maybe getting a little bit more rest or sleep, or it meant that I had to figure out leftovers on a Friday night, and who wants to do that? Right? I know that I like certain things to be delivered versus me going to pick them up. So that's in my budget. Right? I know that me and my husband like to go on date nights to restaurants that our kids won't eat at. So that means it costs a little more than our family night. So that's in our budget. I know that I like to get my hair washed and blow dried a certain number of times every month so I can look great for things like this. So that's in my budget, right? And so
I love that.
I'm not cutting those things out because those are the things that make me feel good, that make me feel like my life is moving smoothly, that when a small problem comes up, I can resolve that problem. So I'm not cutting my expenses. I'm going to go find more money. And so one of the things that I put in this book that I thought was missing from so many of those other books is talking about how to improve your career and manage a career. Because one of the things that, if you come from a background that's anything like the one I came from, my parents and the adults around me worked in trades. I had bus drivers, I had a few state employees, but many of them worked in an hourly setting. So the way that you manage your money as someone who's working hourly is different than someone who's salaried and has a full package of benefits attached to it. And I had to learn that because I knew that that was going to be different for me as someone who was going to college. And if someone is in a similar situation, those first few jobs, you might not take advantage of the retirement account because you're not sure what that means. You might not take advantage of the health insurance and make sure that all of these things in your body are working really good. You know, you might not know that you can get a free therapist that costs you nothing because your job knows that if you're mentally healthy, you're a better worker.
And I'm glad to see companies doing that now. And they're bringing in the financial experts.
They are.
To educate and inform their work staff, their workforce. I think that's brilliant. Now, you know, I've read a few financial books, you know, over the years, not a lot as many as you, but the one that always stands out to me is that obviously Richard Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I have most of his books, and to me they make sense. And I think he kind of breaks down that book in a simple way for people, I think. But it was funny how there's a few memorable moments in his book in the beginning when he was teaching his kids the methodology, if you will. And they actually started really making money, and the driver was like, no, you don't literally make your own money, you know. You got to go out and make it, earn it, not sit there and counterfeit making money. So get that right, you guys. So walk me through a little bit. I know you told me. So when Darla gave me my copy of my book, I should have brought it over here. It's beautifully wrapped, has a pen. I look in the back, and outside of her beautiful picture here, she has like these color strips. And I asked her what they're for, and you can see this is her working copy. And there's strips because it's a workbook. You're going to go through here. You're going to put the challenge to all of us. And we're going to go through this, and we're going to come out better versions of our financial self when we're done, I'm guessing.
That's the point.
So walk me through some of this. I mean, I want to know what I'm about ready to get into because I'm starting today with that.
So in the first chapter, I ask some of those tough questions. So we start with real money talk. That's chapter 1. Where I actually ask you some of those questions. Think about those first memories of money. What was your first job? What your mom or dad used to tell you about money?
Oh, boy.
If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with your time? Because that matters. That helps you to understand where your values lie.
I love that question right there.
What's something that you've wanted to do but you feel like money has kept you from? What's something that money let you do or enabled you to do? Because all those things, if you start to ask the questions and jot down the ideas, it paints a picture for you about what your money life is and maybe even where you would like it to be. And then in the second chapter, I say, okay, now that we did all that imagining and you have a better sense, we got to actually do some work and some math. Like, how much does it cost you to live? Do you know that the main problem I interact that I come across when I'm working with someone about their money is like, well, I just haven't wanted to look at it because I just know it's all bad. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not. So let's get curious. And so I make them calculate a magic number. And the magic number is, how much does it cost you to live?
Right.
And not how much you think it should cost you to live, not how much you want it to cost you to live, how much you need it to cost you to live.
Right.
But like, if you had the best week ever, the best month ever, where a small problem like a car repair or a new tire like was inconvenient but didn't ruin everything.
Right.
All the bills were paid, you had a little money in your savings account, if you have a family, everything the family needed was taken care of.
Yeah.
Like, what is that number? Okay, great. Now let's look at your bank statements for the last 90 days. Is your money being spent to match your magic number? It's not. Why not?
Right.
Is it because you just don't have enough money? Because great, let's fast forward to chapter 9 where let's talk about how we can get you more money from a side hustle, from monetizing something you're good at outside of your day job,
Right.
from negotiating, from going to a training program or a certificate program or even to school, which is an expensive way to skill up, but might be the thing you need to do.
Yeah, it's an
so
option.
that you can get more money. And that then we'll come back and we'll work on your debt.
Yeah.
And so we follow a pathway because when folks don't know where to start and where to go next, then they just kind of freeze. And so I have
I've done that in my past.
Yeah, right? And it's in everything. It's not just about money. It's about other things at work, in our relationships, at the store. You know, like I had a list, but I forgot the list, so I'll just get all the junk food and then I'll leave and you get back home and you're like, oh man, we need to catch up.
And for me, I usually just end up throwing stuff. I'm like, I came in here for 5 things. I have 50 things.
Yeah.
You know, so those lists are important, you guys.
They help. And so I created a trademarked order called the Paycheck Playbook.
Interesting.
Where it's like, here's where you start, here's where you go next, and then depending on how those first 2 steps went, you either go here or here. So it's a bit of a decision tree, because the great news about money and managing your money is there's actually a lot of ways to get it right. And people might not know that. There's actually a lot of ways to get it right. So the way that I manage my money every day, every week, every month might be completely different than the way you manage money, but we can both get it right.
Oh, yeah. I didn't manage mine too well last night.
It's okay. Go get another
But you know
contract.
what, though? I went to a really nice restaurant with a good friend and treated her to a beautiful dinner in Grosse Pointe. And the staff was beautiful. I mean, it's a really nice restaurant. But we had a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
And the food was great. And we don't do that all the time.
That's right. You don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
And if you get toward the end of the month and you're like, ooh, maybe that wasn't so great, go sell some more business. The good news about you being a business
owner. I'm taking on
owner,
more, guys. Bring it in.
Yeah, is you can do that.
So is Darla.
Yes, I am. DarlaBishop.com.
That's right. You can order thousands of these for gifts. No, that's so true. But it's like, so when I'm sitting here listening to it, I love the trademark component that you have on your process. Okay. Now, have you taken it beyond the book to like workshops yet?
Yeah. So what's so funny about the book?
'Cause that's where my mind went. Right.
I
away.
actually wrote the book because I used to do. One of the things I do in my life is I'm also a college professor. I'm a part-time college professor. I'm working at Michigan State now.
Wonderful.
And so I get to be in front of young people all the time. I love it.
That's
and
awesome.
so writing the book, once I had that outline from my editor, was really easy because I actually was taking old presentations, old workshops that I had done on college campuses and for high schoolers, and just turned it into a system. Like the system that I use with coaching people, and just said, okay, this is the order to put it in. So I pulled all my notes and my email templates and my things and just made it into a book. So now I'm taking the book that came from the coaching system in the workshops, and I'm actually going to turn it into a digital course. Because what I realize is that as people read the book, they're like, this was really good, but I have some kind of specific things that I need to work through. Do you coach? I'm like, yes, but I'm at capacity because I've got a lot of things happening, so I can't take more than 2 clients and feeling good about that, because I also want people to feel really supported when they work with me. So one of my mentors said, well, can you turn it into either a group coaching program or even an online class so that people who need a little bit more of a specific guidance can get it. So
that's a great idea. So I was thinking the same thing as the online piece. As a content producer, I think if if one, because a lot of my guests are coaches, right? A lot of them. Excuse me. And I think I'm not a coach. I'm debating if I'm going down that path or not. I'm not sure yet. But I think when individuals kind of say, hey, I'm at capacity, you got to start thinking, okay, how do I reach, instead of one-to-one, how do we reach one-to-many?
Yes.
And that's through content marketing. Through building content, right? You become a content creator.
Yes.
Then create the platform, subscription-based and or free in some cases, to get them in. And now they have the mind of Darla 24/7, 365, and you've done the work once.
And each other, right? Because if I'm building a community, just like some of the people might be just further along that they've already solved a problem that you're just at the front of. Yeah. And they can say, oh, here's one of the ways I was able to do that.
Yes, and that's brilliant.
And that's brilliant, right? Because I didn't even have to be in the interaction, but they got an answer, they got a solution, they got an option. Yeah. And then I check in a few weeks later and say, how's it going? They're like, oh, I'm doing great. Yeah. And I love that. And I want that. Yeah. Because honestly, if I'm imagining better.
That's right.
What I imagine and where I feel so good is when I'm surrounded by individuals who are happy, who are healthy, and who've got a little money in the bank.
That's right.
For a few reasons, because if they're happy and healthy and they've got a little money in the bank and I'm with them, maybe I've got a shot.
That's right. That's right.
And also, like, those people are just happy and healthy and got money in the bank.
I know what you got going on there now. You can afford my coaching now. I like this. Yeah. No, but I mean, I think that's brilliant. And if do you have a Facebook group yet?
Not yet. I have one. I started it. Right now, my mom is the only member. Okay. Because I started it to save the name.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Mom.
Spread the word.
I started it to save the name, but kind of have it hidden otherwise. Because I wasn't ready.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You have to be ready.
You got to be ready.
And it does require time. Yeah. Right. So, it's why I've been thinking about that myself for the show. I have yet to do that. You're right. I mean, we have a lot of things in our lives that are priority, I guess.
That's right.
And so those things will come to fruition when they're ready. So we have this beautiful journey. You went to school, you read, you just became this financial guru now.
Okay, you say so. I'm just a regular girl from Detroit who wants to be surrounded.
That knows a lot about money and teaches people about money. Writes a book. You mentioned your husband's in the military, so thank you for your service, Mr. Bishop. And what's his first name?
Myron.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you two been married?
Oh gosh, married 11 years. Okay. But this Christmas actually, we'll cross that line. I did the calculation of us having lived together for the bigger portion of our lives because we met in college. Okay. So we've been a couple for more than 20 years.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. How's he with money?
Oh, he's really good now.
Okay. No, he's really good now. I kind of figured you were going to say something like that. Good job. Not so good in the beginning, it sounds like.
No, you know what? We had different money styles. Right. And to his credit, early in our relationship, I said, I don't know if you noticed, but money's kind of my thing. Like I got some stuff around it. I'm probably talk about it with my therapist a lot, and I'm just really trying to figure out money. Right. He's like, yeah, okay. I did kind of notice that, but I didn't think too much of it. And I said, so, as we are becoming like a serious couple, just know I have to be the CFO of the family. And he was like, what does that mean, CFO? And I was like, Chief Financial Officer. Right. I was like, it means I have to hold the checkbook. I want to see all the bank accounts because I am really trying to build something. Yes. And I need to see all the ins and outs so that my calculations work. And he was like, so you want to do that? Sounds fine to me. Okay. Yeah. And I made it a big deal. I thought he was going to be like, no. He was like, all right, sounds good.
Sounds like a lot of marriages nowadays, though, they have separate accounts.
And that can work.
A lot of people I know, the husband's wife, they will sign up to say, okay, I'm responsible for these things and you're over here, but what's in your account's in your account. what's your feeling on that?
Whatever works for you is my feeling.
Okay.
So we use a hybrid approach where we have his, hers, and ours.
Oh, okay.
And we do that because there are a set of family things that make sense for us to do together. The mortgage, kids stuff, groceries, things in the household. But I like to drive an old paid off car. And my husband prefers to have a newer model for all types of reasons. And I'm fine with that because that comes out of his budget.
Gotcha.
Right? The car payments are not a family expense. Those are the separate expenses.
Okay.
And every couple of years, we sit down and say, does it make sense at this point to bring everything into one account? And the answer has still remained no. But we have friends who everything is in one account, and they are perfectly happy doing that because your relationship with each other, whatever works for you, you're the only two people, unless you're polyamorous, which is popular again. The only two that matter are you. And so if it works for you, do it.
Right.
And our hybrid method allows us and forces us to talk about money frequently, which is what I like. I like us to have the conversation. Oh, this is coming up next month. What are we going to do about the kids' soccer fees? What are we going to do about summer camp? Right? It forces us to have the conversation and to make a decision together. Whereas if we had it all in one bucket, I don't know that we do it the same way.
Right.
But that's what works for us. Now, if you're in a couple where
I actually like that model.
Yeah, but if you're in a couple where having things completely separate and you just say, I take care of this, you take care of this, cool. If it works and no one's fighting, perfect.
Right.
If you have a model where everything's in one big bucket, also cool.
Yeah.
But the point is to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, and being able to also hold each other accountable to the outcome of that.
Yes.
So, you have to contribute, you have to make sure everything's there. But I like your approach because it really does provide some visibility and you're able to kind of see ahead and say, okay, we're set, we're stable. Whereas if you're just flying on your own, there's no middle ground. You're going like, well, gosh, I hope he has money this month to cover.
Right.
I mean, it seems like he's busy.
And one of the benefits
money,
of being in a
and vice
relationship
versa.
is that you got two bodies, two brains, like working to keep whatever going.
Right.
And so why not take advantage of having two bodies and two brains working, right?
Yeah, I love that.
However that looks. And so because two people can frequently do things much faster than one person. So if you're working on a budget and you're doing it together, even if you have to do it in a way that feels disjointed, but you've agreed that this is our goal and this is how we're getting there.
Right.
Perfect.
So somebody, that's single, they don't have that. That's where you can come into play as their financial coach, perhaps, and give them the guidance and structure, hold them accountable, give them the system to say, okay, you have yourself, but I'm the second brain in this thing that's going to help you improve your financial livelihood, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So there you go, guys. If you don't have a partner in life, hire Darla.
Or read the book. Because honestly, I put everything in the book. So that you wouldn't have to call me until later when you have big money questions. Because I want you to have big money questions. Because I want you to have big money.
That's right. I want big money.
Yeah.
No, I had this conversation about 2 weeks ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about it's easy to get caught up on the lifestyle things about money, right? I'm not into that. Like I used to be. I'm no longer. Like I don't give a shit about the biggest house anymore. I don't care. In fact, I don't want a big house like that anymore.
To clean.
I want my bank account to be fat because I like travel.
Yeah.
When I want to get up and go, and I'm very spontaneous. When I want to go, I want to go.
Yep.
As long as there's cash flow.
Yes.
And then but if there's so many people there's so many Americans that I really think that they live above and beyond their means, first and foremost. It's still shocking how many people, you hear the phrase, I own my home. No, you don't. The bank does. Yeah. Unless you legitimately own it, there's no note on it, you don't own it. You're leasing that sucker, or renting it almost in a way, right? So it's like, do you ever get into conversations with people about like the things that they're financing in life? I mean, obviously that's going to be part of a budget, but there's one thing to become financially stable, rich, there's definitions, wealthy, right? Rich and wealthy are two very different
They are.
segments. And it's like wealthy, I think it seems like a lot of people that understand wealth seem to always talk about the ability to give, to get, and to have an abundance of finances, to be able to do good with that, take care of yourself, take care of community, whatever you want to do, make contributions to charities. Whereas rich, you might typically you're not out of debt. Here's my debt, here's my bank account, and you're a couple months away from possible bankruptcy if the shit hit the fan, so to speak. I don't know. I mean, what's your viewpoint on all that? I said a lot. So.
No, you said a lot. And like one of the things that you said that I was like, oh, I got to talk about that is this generosity piece. That I actually have a chapter on generosity because generosity can come in so many forms.
Yeah.
And when you have been financially in a bad spot for any amount of time, you sometimes feel like you don't have anything to give.
Right.
But practicing giving, whatever that looks like, you can give time, you can give talent, you can give knowledge. If money isn't what you have, what about those things? Because being
kindness.
in the practice of giving, of practicing generosity is actually one of the things that opens up your ability to have more money and to use more money.
Yeah.
Because when you've been in a bad space, a lot of times you kind of hold on like this, like, I just don't want to be poor again. I just don't want to be hungry again. I just don't want to be sleeping on my friends' couches again, right?
Yeah.
And so you hold on tight, but that tightness actually is not good for you. And so practicing generosity in all the many forms that you can, even if money isn't the thing that you can share, is something that helps to shift that mindset because it reminds you that you do have so much.
Yes.
And that there you do have something to give and to contribute. And that makes a difference in all of this money stuff.
Yeah, being kind doesn't have to cost money.
It doesn't.
Living generously doesn't have to cost money. Michael Spain was on my show a few weeks ago. And the whole topic of his episode was live generously.
Yes.
And I love that you say that and you have a chapter on that because there are so many things you could do in life that you could just turn around and smile. Try to go out there and smile at 5 people today, and see the results. You will get somebody to either, unless they were in a really dark spot that moment, they might not smile back, but most people, when I've done that, I've turned and I will always get a smile back.
Yeah.
You never know what someone's going through. And kindness is one of the most wealthiest, generous gifts we can give to people.
And then you talked a little bit about those folks who are like stable and then rich and then wealthy.
Yes.
And what I want to tell to people, if you're at the place where you just want to be stable, okay, let's get you there.
Yeah.
Let's get you there. Let's be laser focused on getting you stable because being stable is a dream for some people.
Yeah.
And so let's get you there. Let's make you feel good there. And then once you've got that under, then we can work on the rich and the wealthy. And the thing about keeping up with other people, that's not an easy thing to let go of. It's not, right? For all types of reasons. You may live in a neighborhood that just requires you to have certain things. And so you're like, well, how do I make sure I have those things? And so what is the balance? And one of the things that we tap into a lot through this book and through the workshops is what really matters to you. Because the secret, the silent, implied subtitle of this book is How to Afford Everything That Matters. Because when we figure out what truly matters to us in this moment, today, in this life stage, and we prioritize that, everything else works itself out.
Yep.
And so we tap into that quite a bit. Like I know right now I have a job that I love, but the reason I love my job is because it gives me just enough flexibility that if I need to get my kids from school or drop them off, or I want to take a couple hours to go to the Halloween parade that they'll have in a few weeks, I can do that as long as I let the team know and my work is done.
Brilliant.
Right?
I like that.
Because that's what's important to me right now. A few years from now, when my kids are ignoring me and they don't care about me anymore, then I want a different job that keeps me busy and keeps me on the road and has me doing new projects and exciting things.
Yeah.
And I know that will change. And so what matters is, what do I need right now? I'm not worried about what 5 years ago me needed. I'm not worried about 5 years from now me needs.
Right.
But like, what do I need right now? And is my money flowing to the things I say I need?
Yeah. There's so many questions I have today, but it's like I know we don't have a ton of time for it. But it's like I use I use on my calendar. Well, not usually on my calendar every Friday, and I have it just set for 5. Sometimes it might be at 3 in the afternoon. Sometimes it might be 7. But I have review my budget. So
you do? You're ahead
I will prove it to you and show you on my phone.
That is so good. That is so good.
Right. You'll laugh when you see my calendar. I'll show you after we're done here. But like my morning starts off very structured, right? Get up at 5:40 and all the way to where I start working at 9 a.m. After I take my kid to school, everything. I drop them off and I come to the office or go home and work. But all week long, I do monitor my spend,
right.
But Friday's the day I sit down every Friday and I observe and watch and like, oh my God. And and I use Dave Ramsey's tool every dollar.
Yes.
I love that tool.
It's a great tool.
And it breaks it all down.
And it's free. There's a free version that's really helpful.
Yeah. I paid for the paid version because I'm integrating some stuff, but
oh great.
I love the fact that I can create my categories, dump stuff into like personal. Here's my subscriptions, here's my business, here's my subscriptions, and then it all breaks it down and shows that I see, and then I connect my bank account to it and I can see, holy moly, am I spending a lot right here.
Yeah, you're like, ooh, okay.
And usually that's for me going out to eat all the time.
And you're like, okay, so if I'm going out to eat, how do we either make sure I got enough money to cover that? Because it turns out I like going out to eat with my friends. It's a great way to talk with them. So maybe you start having breakfast appointments because breakfast is a little cheaper.
Right.
Maybe you start going at happy hour so that you have snacks instead of a full sit-down meal, right?
Exactly.
There are ways that you say, oh, I'm spending a lot in that category. I don't want to completely change that part of my life because that's part of my week that I love.
Yeah.
So don't take away the joy.
Right.
Leave the joy, reduce the cost, or go make some money.
Right. So, and that's powerful what you just said, because I think when you're managing your budget and you're watching it, you can actually see where you're spending. And in my case, my number one category is that entertainment, eating out all the time. Whoa, boy. But I will look at it and I go, well, I could look at it as a negative and go, okay, well, I just need to go make more money, fill the piggy bank, right? And that's fine. That number is fine. Or I can say, okay, well, it's also fine because it's my release to be around people that I care about, right? I'm stimulated. I'm a high energy individual, and sometimes because I work here in the studio or I'm in my home office, I'm just by myself, and I need human interaction.
Yes,
and I need to feed off your energy and vice versa and get ideas. So then I look at that number, I go, I'm good with that.
Yep.
And then there are some months that if I have projects that end and I don't have contracts that don't renew in my other business, then I might go, well, okay, now I need to throttle that down.
Yep.
Until I can put more money in the bank account.
Mark, you're doing better than you made it seem. You are doing it exactly right. You're doing it exactly right. You're doing it exactly right. You're looking at your money every week.
Yes.
You know where you're spending the most money and where, if you need to tighten it up, how to do it.
Yeah.
But you're also doing the things that make you happy and make you excited and get you connected and fill your cup.
I try. Yes.
You're doing it.
Yes. I love it. So what's the next step in your journey here? I mean, we have some ideas for maybe what could possibly become book 2, book 3. You have you have this wonderful family. It sounds like you have this job that you love because of all the youth minds that you get to be around and be part of their journey in this world and shaping them. And what do you see next?
I'm focusing on staying in the moment because I am usually.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'm usually the person who's like, okay, this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years. And I've got a plan and a backup plan.
Yeah.
And one of the gifts that writing this book has given me is the requirement of kind of staying in the moment. When we were writing it, it was like, okay, nope, we're working on this chapter right now, working on the next chapter right now. Okay, we're approving the cover design. Okay, we're putting it on the website, and kind of just like staying at the moment.
Right.
And then once it was almost done, it was like, oh wait, I've got to actually market this thing if I want people to buy it. So then, but like not getting to that point until it was time to get to that point. And so usually I'd say, well, my 5-year plan is this, but for this season, for this quarter,
right,
I am focused on where am I now? How did I get here? And what is the natural next step? Not the next 5,
right,
not the next 3, the next 1.
I like that because, and it's interesting, almost every guest that's been on this show, and we've talked about, like if I ask them what's next, time management, none of that matters to them. You just confirmed it too, moments. Live in the present, right now, this moment. What am I doing this moment? I'm in control of that moment. Yeah. So it was interesting, a very interesting observation, I'm gonna say about a month ago. So my week is structured probably too much for most people, but like Mondays, nutrition coach. Tuesdays, I go to therapy. I love going to therapy. Yeah. Wednesday's my show, therapy. Thursday, I have a life coach. And Friday, I kind of figure it all out and go start all over next week.
Yeah.
But it's like one thing that I'm learning is that structure's given me that I'm being more grounded, more humble towards life, around people. I'm learning to be more aware of everything, really. I've never been really strong in the finance world, but I get it, obviously, and I know enough to have a budget, and I have to have that magic number, and then I have to fill the piggy bank, and then anything above that number goes in the other piggy bank, the savings account. So, or investments. I do a bunch of that too. But, it's like this moment thing is critical. And I'm learning that through all of you that come on this show. But it was an interesting observation a couple months ago. This young lady, she wasn't on my show, but she was observing my weekly calendar. She heard me say this before on the show. And she actually is a friend of my life coach, Joe Bruce, and a friend of hers. So Joe's my life coach. And her friend said, you know what Mark's doing? And she goes, no, what? He goes, he is every week he's living in the past, the moment, and his future. And I go, what does she mean by that? Because I never looked at it that way. And she goes, Tuesdays is his therapy. He's dealing with his unresolved emotions from his past. Wednesday's his show. That's the present. Yeah. And meeting with you, Joe, on Thursdays for Life Coach is the future. Yeah. Every week he's living in the past, present, and future. Yeah. And I thought that was a brilliant observation.
Yeah. And when it comes to money, that's one of the things that I figured out is when I was really in the thick of working and moving to change my financial life. Okay. I recognized that I had to work on all three at the same time. Because I had to make a plan and take action on obligations. I had a little bit of debt. There were things that I really needed and wanted to do for my family that I had committed to in the past. So I needed a plan and a budget line item for that. Yeah. I needed to make sure that I was putting enough money into a piggy bank, into a savings account, so that when a life change came up, like graduation, a move, whatever, I had the money to account for that. Right. But I also recognized that I had to live in a way that made my body trust that we would be okay, that all of this work, the extra hours working, the being strict on a budget, the saying no to things that maybe I wanted to do but just didn't fit that week or that month, that would all be worth it. And so that meant that when I went to the grocery store, I could and I needed to get the apples I liked, even if it wasn't the apple that was on sale. Right. I knew that it meant that if my friends invited me somewhere and I wasn't working and I had the money, that I had to say yes, because my body needed to trust that we were practicing for our good financial life in these little small ways, so that all of the effort wouldn't feel like it was wasted.
Nice.
Yeah.
So as we come to an end on episode 22. Whoa! What would be some advice? So, somebody, let's say a chunk of my audience is, people that are just every day we're struggling in some way, some form. We wish we had more money. maybe they don't have a budget. My guess is, hey, figure out that budget.
Actually.
Or no?
Actually.
Okay, here we go.
There is an unsung hero in your financial journey. The unsung hero is your calendar. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look back and if you look forward in your calendar, you'll see where you spent money and you'll see where you need to spend money.
Gotcha.
And by having a sense of what's coming up, you can make a plan for that. Right?
Regardless of how much money someone makes,
Yes.
you can just say, if I make X amount a month, I have these living expenses, right? Just jot it down.
Jot it down.
And then if you have a lifestyle that you wish you had and or do have, jot it, insert it in there.
Yep.
And then figure out how to make more money.
Right. And who has a birthday? Because if you're in your family, you always celebrate birthdays by going to a restaurant.
Right.
Make sure you got the money for the restaurant. If you in your family, when someone gets married, this is the kind of gift you give. Okay, make sure it's on the calendar so you have a plan for it, so that you don't end up like me,
great advice,
as the person on the way to the birthday party who stops at Target and spends $30 on a toy plus $5 for the bag.
Yep.
Because if I knew 2 weeks ago when I was already in Target, I could have grabbed the toy that was on sale for $15, and you know what? I've got a bag in the back, right? And so I saved myself $40 just by looking ahead at my calendar.
Yeah.
So
I
look at your
never
calendar.
looked at it that way.
Yeah.
Look at my calendar.
Look at your calendar. What's
That
coming
makes
up?
sense.
Do you have a plan? Because everything on your calendar has a time consequence and a money consequence.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the time consequence and what's the money consequence? And then make a plan for it.
That
and
is
after
great.
you do that for a few months, you'll figure out, oh, this is kind of how I could build my budget.
Yeah.
Then you have a budget.
So takeaway. What do you want to leave the audience with? Obviously, they're good. I will have every way possible that I know about to follow Darla on the old interwebs, so her website, her socials, where to buy her book. I highly encourage you guys to please support her and get the book. And what that's going to do is help you with better improve the way that you approach finances. But what would you like to leave the audience with today?
Imagine the day that you paid all your bills, you ordered dinner in because you were just so tired and didn't feel like cooking.
Right.
And then on your way to pick up the food that you were going to have for dinner, your tire popped. And it's like, oh, no big deal. Imagine that day that those things are just easy and smooth.
Yeah, because you have the ability, the financial capability to not make it a problem.
That's right.
It's just, okay,
You can do it.
I'm going to enjoy this dinner more tonight.
That's right.
I love it. Well, you guys, thank you for another episode, joining us here on Imagine Better. Please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss other amazing episodes like this one. Share this message. We are trying to get all of these messages on this show out across communities around the world. There are a lot of people that have needs, they need access to resources and guidance to help them imagine a better life and obtain that better life. So imagine it, believe it, live it. Love you guys. Imagine better. That's it.